This is Python's Paradise, your film show out of Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. This is your host, Greg Gilbert, aka the Python Hyena. And folks, we're still in the pandemic here, but things are starting to get a little lenient here, and especially here. Um, but I'm going to say I only doing 30 interviews in 2020. The station got closed up and it's still closed up, but I got introduced to Zoom, and this has been made a little bit easier for me as a result. So I've been able to get on track here, and the pandemic is as much of a shit show it is. There has been some films come out. Some people have been able to work around it, and there has been a film come out that I've been signed on as a co-producer on, one of them, called Social Distance. Along with 13 Fanboy and Victim No More and Hearts of Darkness, the making of the Final Friday. It's among several projects I've got my name on. And Social Distance, of course, is kind of dealing with the pandemic. Folks, I give you the director of that film. And I'm going to have him introduce himself because I'm going to butcher your name. Despite, I know your first name is Brian, so introduce yourself to our listeners.
All right, Brian, yes, and on screen I go by Luciano Barsuglia. It's Italian. It helps if you say it with your hand, Barsuglia.
Barsuglia. I like the sound of that. Well, you know what? Social Distance, I come on as a co-producer on, and I got to get that on Blu-ray. Is there any sign of that coming out on Blu-ray, or is it out? Or
it is out on Blu-ray. Yeah, it just came out a few weeks ago on Blu-ray, and
okay, I got to get that. I got to get that.
People can get it directly from the website at socialdistancemovie.com or on Amazon.
Okay, perfect. Now, I remember when I got involved in this project, I got involved because Vernon Wells, who's not only been a guest on the show, but I met him in person at Horrorama 2017. And I've told the story many times on here, but I've lived here in New Brunswick, Canada, my whole life. And I'm going to be 49 in July. So my whole life I've been in this little province. And to talk about how mostly unknown New Brunswick, Canada is, I'm 4 hours ahead of you, not 3, like in Toronto. But Lisa Langlois of class of 1984 was my guest a couple of times, and we got to talk about travel, and she asked me what was stopping me, and she invited me to Horrorama in Toronto, and I couldn't say no to that. And not only did I have a blast with her and at the event, but one of the people sitting close to us was Vernon Wells, whom she worked with in a movie. And I had a great time meeting him, and wonderful guy, and had him on the year after, the following year, or whatever. And so he was pretty much what led me to take part in this project. So talk about before we get to Social Distance, I want to get a little bit of your background and where you come from.
Well, fantastic. Thank you for having me on the show, by the way. I appreciate it. Glad to be on the Python's Paradise here. Well, let's see. I have been kind of making movies or writing or telling stories one way or another since I was a kid. My grandpa gave me an 8mm camera when I was maybe 12 years old, and the B. Luciano, that's in honor of him. And that first camera, that little 8mm camera that I started making skateboard and backyard movies on, and just kept upgrading over the years. Worked at a TV station while I was getting my bachelor's degree, and then moved down to from Northern California to Southern California. where I was getting my master's and just did a lot of writing. And when the digital world came out, I moved from post production and education and started making movies in the early 2000s.
Hmm. Well, social distance, of course, is how I come connected with you. Talk about where that project come from, and I'm pretty sure the pandemic had quite a bit to do with it.
Yes, it most certainly did. Well, back in March of 2020, a year ago now, the world basically shut down for the
Hmm.
shelter at home orders. And me and an actor, Jed Rowan, who is in social distance, we got together just via phone and Zoom, and we're chatting about how to stay creative. Started throwing around some ideas, and social distance started to kind of come to fruition. Called up some other actors and kind of sought out who would be interested. Then I wrote the movie for each of the actors individually based on their resources, what they had at home and who they had around them, and what we could make the movie with. So yeah, it was absolutely pandemic born.
Pandemic born.
Yeah.
Did it take long to write the screenplay for this?
I kind of wrote it in two parts. I outlined the initial story and then wrote the first act.
Hmm.
Then we shot the first act. Um, and then I wrote the rest of it once I saw what all the actors kind of brought to it at that point. I wanted to see how they were developing their characters initially, since this is a very different way of making a movie. We didn't record it on Zoom. The actors all had their own cameras, and we set up cameras and lights and sound through Zoom, through video conferencing. They were directed, but then I put all of it together in post production from there to give it its own kind of video conference or computer look, depending on the scene.
I can't remember who it was that brought this project to my attention, and I don't want to butcher that, but it was either Rob Mahoney, who's the executive producer, or Noelle Berger, who's involved in a lot of projects with me. I'm leaning towards Rob Mahoney, but I'm not quite on the money on that. But I know Rob Mahoney was very proud of this project. He was supposed to come on here this weekend, but he's got some appointments and things he has to deal with, so he's not able to. But I know he's championed this project quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Rob got involved early on and just kept marketing,
Hmm.
promoting it, and helping produce it from afar, as we were all involved with this project from afar. And it took a lot of creative minds, a lot of dedicated people and pieces to really bring it together. And Rob was a big part of that.
Absolutely. And of course, Noelle Berger's involved in a lot of film projects. I come to know her through 13 Fanboy. Um, she was a big part of that, and I know she's on screen in this as well.
Yes, she has a couple of scenes, and she gets to flout her talents, and she does a great job. And it was fun working with her. We Similarly to this conversation here, she had a camera set up, and I was
Mhm.
directing her through Zoom, and I put it together. So it's fun to see the actors react when they actually get to see their scene with one other person or six other people in some cases.
Mhm. Talk about bringing in Vernon Wells.
I've worked with Vernon in the past on a few other projects. So
Mhm.
Vernon was one of the first phone calls I made to see if he would want to be involved, so I could write that part specifically for him. And the role of Gil Oldman Jr., kind of the instigator and overseer in the movie, is played by Vernon, and it was written specifically for him. And on that festival and award circuit, he's had some success and getting some wonderful acknowledgments there. So that's pretty exciting. And
Mhm.
he's an incredible person to work with. He has so much fun with uh, the project and the art of acting, and he's a joy and pleasure to work with. I absolutely love working with Vernon.
Yeah. No, I think he's great in this movie. One of the things I love about Vernon is his availability to independent filmmakers. I mean, this is a guy who is a road warrior. So it's always great and he's not the only one. There's a select bunch of actors from these cult films that seem to pop up in these movies. And I love the fact that they are available, you know, like you see Felissa Rose pop up a lot in these as well. And I think it's great because it shows that it's not just the money, it's they love the craft, they love the work, they love the experience.
Yeah, absolutely. There are quite a few people like Vernon who they might sort of weave themselves in and out of the industry with a project like this and then do something studio based, a much larger project, but they really love working and just being around the process and being around the creative people that are putting projects together and being involved. And as an independent filmmaker, I'm lucky to have people like that out there too.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm gonna take a look at the IMDb here so I can go down through here. There's some of these names I do not know, but I know there was, going down here, I know there was Jason Bradford, I think, got involved in this as well. And I think he's on screen.
Paul Bradford.
Oh, Paul Bradford. Okay, I was thinking the wrong person. Yeah, Jason Bradford worked on 13 Fanboy. So, okay, yeah, I got the wrong person.
Well, Paul Bradford's on screen here too. He has a great role toward the end of the movie.
Okay, all right.
He's an actor from Down Under.
um, yeah, I noticed you're listed on here for cinematography, film editing, sound department. Oh my goodness, you got your hands in a lot of areas in this movie.
Yeah, as I sort of had to with a movie like this, and
Hmm.
parsed it out where I could, and overall had to oversee most of it in the process.
Do you have a favorite that you like to do?
I mean, I love to direct, and I really enjoy cinematography and doing camera work.
Yeah, and you got a lot of projects coming up in post production or pre production. You got to be you're busier than I am, and I thought I was busy during the pandemic.
Well, it varies from some that I'm supporting through crowdfunding, and others a direct part involved somehow or another, and then a few that I'm helming along the way.
Okay, so where do you come up with your ideas?
Uh, Generally, if I'm directing it, it's something I wrote,
Hmm.
and sometimes it depends on circumstance. Like social distance was born of the time. The next one, the Electric Man 2, that was also born of the time. Again, with that kind of came about through the same actor, Jed Rowan, through discussions we were having while making Social Distance. There were some scenes he was hoping he could work in with his character. And I said, that's not going to work for this movie, but that gives me an idea. And I went back and wrote The Electric Man, and that's the feature we're currently in production on.
Yeah, you've approached me on the Electric Man, and I'm not saying no to the project, but it's a matter of is the Indiegogo still up for that?
Yeah, it's ongoing. It's we're in production, and we reached our goal. So at this point, any of the contributions that we get just go toward making it bigger and better, and making our cast stronger and our crew stronger, and making sure we have everything we need.
Can you still get on as a producer or something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. We just actually just this last week, a couple days ago, added 7 new perks to get people
Okay.
involved and bring people on and give them something new and exciting to get to. It's a long, this one's a long process because of, as the pandemic, we started shooting it back in November, got shut down after 3 days of shooting. Willingly, we just decided to shut it down. Planned on getting back into production in January, but the industry basically shut down in Southern California. So into February, into March here, we just started getting back into production. We're 7 days in, and actually, as soon as I'm done here with you, we're going to go shoot a scene today as well.
Are you, due to the pandemic, are you doing it similarly to like social distance, or are you able to get out there and do more interaction?
No, that's why that's one of the reasons why it's taking so long, because we are on set, on location. We're
Mm-hmm.
keeping the crew small and doing everything following safe set guidelines. Even though it's not a union shoot, we are following the safe set guidelines, and we're keeping our crews pretty minimal. And this project was actually written to be made during the pandemic, so minimal cast members in each scene, minimal crew. An
Mm-hmm.
average day is about 7 people total, including cast.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna check into it. I get a lot of people approaching projects, and I haven't gotten involved with one since I think about last summer, because I don't make money at this podcast, and I think some people don't realize that. I work as a cleaner. I'm an essential worker. So, and it's just me and my cat here. So, what people don't realize is I don't have the funds. I think Noelle's a lot better off in that area, but I try to help when I can, But I would certainly be interested to look into this project. Tell us what the Electric Man is about.
Well, just you mentioned Noelle. I just also want to give a quick shout out to her. She was a huge part of social distance in her scenes and helping promote the movie as well. And
Mm-hmm.
it's great having her involved in projects like that. And the Electric Man, it's about a character named Trace McNeil, and he's a utility worker.
Uh-huh.
And one day while on the job, he's leaving the house after checking the meters. And I was actually listening to one of your shows with Joe Castro, and you guys were talking about Eric Roberts. And so Jed gets to have a scene with Eric Roberts here. And as he's leaving that house, he walks by a transformer, gets electrocuted, a 12,000 volt shock that kills him, brings him back to life. And from there on out, he doesn't exactly know what is real and what isn't real. And I can't tell you too much without giving it away, but it's kind of a psychedelic, horror adjacent, black comedy with a bit of romance in there, and maybe some zombies, maybe some vampires, maybe a little bit of everything, and a whole lot of philosophy.
Well, yeah, Eric Roberts I haven't had on here yet. But I have had Joe Castro on the show. I know Joe Castro through I've cameoed in 9 films for James Balsamo. And one of them was It Wants Blood, which Joe Castro did the creature effects in. And what was interesting with that is that I just had to shoot my scenes on my phone and send them to James, and he spliced them into the movie. And my first scene was being watched on a television by Eric Roberts, which kind of blew my mind because I didn't have to leave here, and I'm in a scene with the guy.
Oh,
But
funny.
yeah, but nonetheless, I'm very familiar with Eric Roberts, and you've got Vernon Wells back. Talk about working with Eric Roberts.
Eric was absolutely fantastic. He let's see. So again, I wrote the scene just for him once we found out he was going to be involved, and I wrote the scene specifically for him. And he came on set ready to go, and he has a scene with Alyssa Dowling, and the two of them had a great chemistry. They had worked together before, and
Mm-hmm.
Jed Roan's character's there, and Eric, he keeps it light and entertaining, and really enjoys being on set and doing it. And I think after every third take or so, he guaranteed me that was the best acting of his career.
Yeah. Well, I gotta say, you got Vernon Wells back on this. Talk about the role he plays in this, because I know he's antagonist in Social Distance. Talk about his role in this film.
Yeah, and this he's doing something a little different. We haven't shot his role yet, but again, I wrote the character just for him,
Mm-hmm.
and he is the main. He is a friend, a co-worker of the main character, and they have a couple of scenes together that are just kind of fun transitional scenes within the story that help to push the plot forward and give them some great time together and give Vernon a chance to really show off another side of his acting.
Absolutely. And of course, Tom Sizemore in this as well. It's funny seeing Tom Sizemore get involved in these movies because um, I remember, back in the 90s, he was in Strange Days and Natural Born Killers. And now he's under the indie circuit, which I think is really cool. Talk about bringing him into this.
Yeah, one of the actors and executive producers, James DiGiacomo, had a contact who knows Tom and said, "Hey, what about bringing Tom Sizemore into the project?" And I said, "Reach out and see if it's possible." And one thing led to another, and once I found out he was interested, I tweaked the scene specifically to him based on some of those movies that you just mentioned there. I wanted to make sure, it's a when you have an actor like Tom Sizemore, you want to make sure it's a role that he can really bite into and make his own. And it was great to see him on set and do just that, because he had sometimes when you send actors pieces, you don't know if they're just reading their role or the whole screenplay. And he definitely read the whole screenplay, and there's a nuance to his character that he fully understood and looked into. And so he brought some unique aspects that are, that are very much Tom Sizemore. It was absolutely fantastic to work with him and see him create and see his process.
Perfect. Perfect. So when well, I was going to ask, when do you think this project's going to be done? But I guess with the pandemic, you can't tell that, can you?
hoping that we can finish shooting it, just because of people's schedules and whatnot. It's primarily a weekend shoot, so we don't have 2 weeks of principal photography. We're shooting on the weekends and just doing 1 or 2 days here or there. Today will be our 8th day, and we probably have 8 more days of shooting to do. So we're hoping that
Oh,
we can be done in April.
well, that's not too bad.
Yeah.
It's not too bad. So, you got some other projects that are coming up too. Like I noticed you got a lot of projects in development. Now, I don't know about well, I do know about you. It's my issue with me is that me juggling more than one project becomes a disaster. How do you put yourself in the position to be able to do more than one project at once?
Well, since I was a kid, my mom has said that she thinks I have 27 hours in the day somehow, because I've kind of always been this way and had a lot of things going on, and somehow I managed to do it. I'm not sure exactly how, but I keep them coming. And if you're looking at the projects in development there, Amber Road was actually supposed to be shooting this time last year, but then the pandemic hit, so we shut it down. We were right in the process of casting it, and since then have now made 2 additional movies. And so we're looking at getting that one started back up and maybe into summer.
Okay, yeah, I'm looking at Amber Road now, and you got Vernon Wells back in that one. You got how many projects you got Vernon in?
I think that would be probably my 5th. And as long as I'm making movies, Vernon, I will always write a role for Vernon. I love working with him. And it's not on IMDb, but we also have Jeffrey Combs currently attached to that one too from Reanimator. So
Oh,
we're hoping,
nice.
yeah. So we're hoping budget and everything works out, and if we can keep Jeffrey Combs involved and Vernon and some of the other people in the cast there, we'll have a great cast and a great movie. But that, like I said, that's pushed back, and we're working on it though.
Well, I'm seeing some familiar names come up here in your projects. I don't know these particular people, but I'm seeing their names surface a lot, like Alyssa Dowling and Rachel Riley.
Yeah, these are people that I've worked with before, and they're both actually in the Electric Man too. And I really enjoy when I'm writing my screenplays. I really enjoy writing for specific actors. Uh, Rachel and Alyssa, they both have lead roles in Amber Road, and I
Hmm.
had come up with the concept for the story, and then approached each of them before I wrote it, just to make sure they would be interested, so I could write it specifically for them too.
Okay. I'm going to bring up a few of these other projects, and you could just tell me what you wish about these. But you got Macbeth the Red King.
Yeah, that's I taught Macbeth for many years,
Uh-huh.
and I was always a little disappointed that there wasn't an easy to follow film version of it. Patrick Stewart does one that's sort of in a uh, imagined World War II scenario that's good, but it's hard to follow if you don't already know the play. So Macbeth the Red King is a movie that keeps the tone of the Shakespearean language, but kind of makes it the no fear version, where the idea is that you watch it, you fully understand it, feel like you got a complete Shakespeare experience, but didn't have to weed through the language. And that's kind of the goal with that one. But that one's a little ways off. That was another one that had, that's probably a year out before we get to that one.
You got Forgotten Legacy.
Yeah, and that was a project 10 years in the making. We originally shot most of that back in 2010.
Uh-huh.
Had a few things that just didn't work out right, and I never quite knew how to finish putting the project together. Then something hit me last year, and came up with a 10-year later bookend to the project, brought back most of the original actors so they were naturally aged, and uh, finished up that project 10 years after we originally shot it. So I'm really proud of that one and glad we could get it done, and looking forward to that with our distribution, Wild Eye releasing.
We got Virus of the Undead Pandemic Outbreak. Another pandemic movie.
Yeah, that one is that one is a fun horror comedy that's exciting and crazy, and kind of renamed and relaunched at the start of the pandemic, but it'll be coming out later this year.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go through some of the ones that are completed here because I'm getting familiar with your filmography. I know you from social distance, but we're going to let you plug some of your other projects. Dementia, an Experiment in Terror, goes back to 2006.
Yeah, that was a fun project. That was the first feature we shot on DV.
Mm-hmm.
Shot it mostly in Long Beach, a little bit up in Visalia, Fresno area, and it's a kind of a torture horror movie about a guy who gets kidnapped and tortured by two assailants. And it was before Saw, before Hostel, and but it's that same type of genre, and it's a little quirky and offbeat.
Actually, it came out after Saw. Saw came out in 2004.
Yeah, we shot it before then though.
Okay,
The,
okay.
the indie usually, especially early on there, most of these indies take us a 2 to 3 year turnaround from the time we finish it. But
I remember a time back, live born in the 70s, but growing up in the video store era, I remember there was a time when movies did take 2 or 3 years to shoot, and now it's almost like they're out 6 months out on disc after they've been released in theaters. It's just weird. So yeah, I get what you're saying.
yeah, and then that's it, especially these effects movies. Before, when you hear about these effects movies, you would expect them 2 3 years before you could see it. And now they turn them around in 9 months, it seems like.
And zombie farm. You're growing zombies, are you?
Yeah, it's another fun horror comedy with, just good adventure, lots of good kills, and lots of good violence.
It's weird. I Night of the Living Dead was 4 years before I was born, and but that seems to be where people begin with zombies, and it's weird what George Romero kind of started. zombies they're supposed to be these frightening characters, but now they kind of take on this almost comedic pop culture uh, reputation now. People are coming up with, like, I'm seeing some of these indie projects like Jim of the Dead, I'm like, people are finding the weirdest ways to kill zombies.
Yeah, I think my zombies are a little more of a homage to Return of the Living Dead rather than Night of the Living
Ah,
Dead.
Linnea Quigley.
Yeah, well, even Zombie Farm, we even have John Philbin, who was in Return of the Living Dead too.
Have you ever worked with Linnea?
No, I haven't. A couple of projects where uh, almost came together to work with her, but didn't quite work out. Not yet, but on the roster for something soon, I hope.
I met Linnea at Horrorama 2018. I had her on my birthday on the show here the year after, and she's a hoot.
That's good. That's great.
Yep. And then we got another project here, Aaron's House.
Yeah, that's actually the project that has become Forgotten Legacy. Aaron's House was the initial release of it. Like I said, we shot in 2010 and did a release, a very limited, primarily just a festival release. And then I shelved it because I just knew there was something more that needed to be done with it.
Okay.
And then back in the start of into 2019, beginning of 2020, that's when that idea hit me how to complete it the right way. There were just some limitations in budget and a few things that we weren't able to do originally. And then it all came together many years later.
And then we have Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde in 2017. That's a subject we've seen in a lot of movies. Talk about how yours differs from the other projects.
Well, my goal there, and it also goes back to, I've mentioned that, education is in my background, and that's something I taught many years. And people associate Jekyll and Hyde with a monster movie, a monster story, and it's not really that at all. So I wanted to make something that was more true to the text, more that could be used for educational purposes. And I kind of took kind of a Hammer-esque mixed with masterpiece theater approach to it. And we had a lot of fun with it. We had Mickey Rooney and Margaret O'Brien, 2 Oscar winners involved. So there's a scene in there where I got to direct 2 Oscar winners in the same scene. And that was the first time I worked with Vernon. And had such a great time, continued that relationship. And we had just a ton of great actors in there. Billy McNamara was in there too, from Copycat and a lot of 80s movies.
I have interviewed William McNamara. He for the anniversary of Dario Argento's opera back in 2017. So yeah, I'm seeing his name on here as well.
Yeah, and the leads were fantastic. Gianni Capaldi, who does quite a few movies, and Sean Piccinino, who's been directing Netflix originals the last year. I think he had 3 movies on Netflix. And
so, how did you bring Mickey Rooney and Margaret O'Brien into this?
There's another actor on there, Randall Malone, and he knew them, and he really was the driving force to getting them involved in the project. So it was very, very fortunate. It's sort of one of those situations where it was a friend of a friend.
Talk about having them on set doing this movie. Talk about directing them, because that's quite a feat.
Yeah, it was that was first day of shooting, so that was our first day on set, and we shot at Randall's house, which was decorated Victorian, so it fit the time-specific era. And we had Mickey and Margaret brought in, and they acted with a couple of other actors, Ann Alden, David Beatty, and they were thrilled to be acting with them. And Margaret, totally professional. I've worked with her a couple of times now, ready to go. Mickey was on set and giving advice and sharing stories. And I think at the time we shot with him, he was 93. And, it was wonderful to shoot with him and hear his stories. And I think his scene took us a few hours, and then we spent another couple hours just having lunch and people getting to pick his brain and talk to him. And get advice from them.
Yeah, and the last project I'm going to bring up here, Impact Event, and I see you get to work with Michael Barryman, who I've never interviewed yet, but I'm certainly got him in over the horizon. Somebody I'm going to be reaching out to. He was at one of the Horrorama events before I started going regularly. So, talk about working with him.
Oh, Michael was a joy to work with. Again, just a complete professional, ready to go. Excuse me. We flew him in, and he came to set, and everybody was really excited to work with him. And it was a great role where he gets to play, a survivor after the apocalypse from a meteor hit, and they're going into a prison looking for resources and don't necessarily find what they're expecting. And he really brought a lot to it. Took a lot of notes on his script. It was fun to see all the notes he had written on his script about the character and the scene. And he brought a lot of ideas as we were shooting, and had a great time. And I'd love to work with him again.
You got Richard Grieco in this, and of course Margaret O'Brien back in this one as well. So you
Yeah.
must have had a really good working relationship with Margaret to get her to come back for a second.
Yeah, she gets a scene with Vernon in there. So had Vernon and Margaret work together in this one.
Fantastic.
Yeah, she's a lot of fun to work with. Yeah, so, like I said, I really enjoy working with people again too. After I know their acting style, I really like that.
Yeah. It's funny, you start in the indie scene, and you make your film, and you might make a couple of films, and then you can kind of slowly build your brand and build your brand. Talk about the process of going from your first movie to eventually casting somebody like a Vernon Wells or a Margaret O'Brien. Take us through that process.
Well, Vernon was actually originally slated to be in my second movie there, Zombie Farm. He and I met at a Starbucks over coffee. We had everything planned out, but then it's back in 2006 or something when I was shooting it, and schedules or something just didn't work out. So getting to work with Vernon 10 years later was wonderful, to bring him in on Jekyll and Hyde, and then have a friendship and working relationship with him now, where we're working regularly together.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's just a process. It starts with the script and having a role that they want to be a part of, and then being able to just create something that they're happy with and proud of, and want to work together again, hopefully.
We'll talk about the success of Social Distance, because I noticed this one has been up for a lot of awards, and I know you're pretty proud of that. Talk about the success of this film, and how that, going into future projects, how that is working with you.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Just before Social Distance, right when we were shooting it, Impact Event was released, with Wild Eye releasing as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that had the biggest release of any of my movies to date. It was in Walmart and Family Video, on cable, and basically anywhere where you could watch movies. They did such an incredible job getting it out to the world. So I don't know how I was gonna top that, but just because of the topic and the subject matter, and the fact that we were one of the only movies being shot at the start of the pandemic, we had a lot of great press coverage. A lot of news outlets picked us up, TV, more traditional media. So we just had a lot of great coverage there. And then we made a movie that we were all very proud of. So when we see the finished product, when you watch it, it's something that everybody really is happy with, it seems. And it's been rewarded on the festival and indie awards circuit that way too. And it's fun to see some of these awards that we're getting in the acknowledgments, and the reviews have been critically very kind to it. And even when they find fault in it, they've been very generous and kind in their reviews and their overall impressions of it, which, as a creator, that's what we hope for. We hope people enjoy and are entertained.
Well, you know, it's pretty cool that because the pandemic has been, like I said, a shit show for everybody. Um, Here in New Brunswick, Canada, or at least here in Fredericton, I've been going back to the theater since last July. So I've got
Wow.
I've got theater access. But have you ever got to watch any of your movies in a theater?
Oh yeah, I think all of them except Social Distance at this point. With the first one, Dementia, we did a theater in Long Beach as a free screening that had a great turnout, and then
Okay.
Zombie Farm, we
Mm-hmm.
actually traveled the country with festivals and independent theaters. We four-walled quite a few theaters, and including the New Beverly that's owned by Quentin Tarantino now before he owned it.
Mm-hmm.
And we were in festivals from California to Philadelphia and in between. And so that one had a great run with the festival circuit. And, then Jekyll and Hyde, we got to see in some great theaters too, and same with Impact Event. So it's really neat to see the movie the way it's meant to be seen, but also too with TVs now. I mean, it's incredible how good things look on the TVs today as opposed to just 10 years ago.
You know, it's funny because I got my TV right here, and I only got set up to watch my Blu-rays. You know, it's like I don't have television of any kind. I find too much is reality TV, which I have no interest in at all. Yeah. Um, so I just watch my Blu-rays. I gotta get Social Distance on Blu-ray here eventually, and but nonetheless, it was great to see that you were able to take the pandemic, and as much of a shit show as it was, you were able to create this film and make a movie that has been acclaimed by a lot of people because this has even hit the news, this movie, you know, which I think is great. That was another thing too, and I think it was Rob Mahoney that nudged me in that direction. He said, "This is going to be on some kind of news site or on our news channel." He says,
Yeah, I mean, it got picked up in Variety, mentioned it, Entertainment Weekly, ABC. Uh, I mean, it was on Fox. It was mentioned all over in the summer. It was really neat to see the places that it was mentioned. It was fun.
yeah, so Rob was one of those people that was really in my ear about how this was something different. And it really was something different, you know? I mean, you could go back to something like Time Code, where, you know, you had your four screens, you know, and you pick which one you want to watch. But this is a little bit different where everything is on a screen. And it is a nice counter to the pandemic, you know, and you made a great looking film and people in their various backgrounds and whatnot, people are able to shoot their footage. I wasn't able to get on that part of it, but that's probably good for you because it's one thing for me to cameo in a James Balsamo movie where the tone allows me to be a poor actor. I don't think I could do it for Social Distance because I think my poor acting would probably be, award your film with some bad reviews. So,
But you know what? I'll go back to that Joe Castro interview you did when a similar conversation came up with the two of you, and he was talking about directors and filmmakers working with the actor, and
mhm.
I'm always happy to have people involved in different ways, and that's no bad performances, just bad direction.
Well, it would be a bad performance on my end because I'm not an actor. But with Balsamo, it was a little different story because the tone of his movies are a little different where I can kind of get away with it, you know? So I'm fine, you know? But with something like Social Distance, where it's a little more serious in its subject matter, I'm like, yeah, I'll just stick to the co-producing. You know, I'm not even on with the exception of my picture being in a scene. I'm not even acting in 13 Fanboy. So I it was, yeah, I think it was Rob Mahoney that really championed the whole fact it was involved on television and these news sites, and I know he put it in my ear of, you might want to be part of history, get in on this, and of course Noelle Berger being part, I was like, yeah, maybe I should get in on this. So you got me while the going was good. I get people all the time approaching me, and it's like I just can't. But how
Yeah,
much?
we do what we can when we can. When I have a project in production, it's hard for me to contribute to other campaigns, but I try to when I can.
Well, I'll see what I could do with the Electric Man. I am interested. It's a matter of
Hey,
uh
just getting a chance to talk to you about it on here is huge. Just like you said, Rob was a champion of that movie, Social Distance, but he's also been out there and helping spread the word about the Electric Man, and just people keeping stuff top of mind is a huge help with us indie filmmakers and keeping the discussion going.
this is how I deal with my social. Kitty, join me.
What's his name?
Skittles,
Skittles.
Skittles, Skittles. We're talking about movies, Skittles. Skittles jumping up here, wondering what I'm talking. Every time I'm on the phone, especially if I'm laying in my bed, yep, Skittles got to see what's going on.
Oh, of course they have to know. We have 4 of them at home. They want to know what everything is.
Sticking up here. Yeah. Oh no, he's jumping down now. He's busy. He made his cameo. Yeah, he's gonna come over and rub against my finger. um, yeah. So you get a lot of projects in pre or post production. Talk about the future of what you're doing and where you hope it. Well, I think we can all imagine where you hope it leads you, but do you have any aspirations about where you're heading and what you want to do?
Just bigger and better each time. Each time we make one of these, I want to make it better and bring more to it, and like to get a little bigger with the budgets and
Hmm.
bigger with the locations and effects and who we can bring on board. It's incredible having these actors, but when you see a name or a person you recognize, there's also a dollar sign that comes with that, and
Hmm.
uh, the more recognizable, usually the bigger that dollar sign is. So when we're raising money for movies, we're a lot of times we're pitching that aspect of it. Help us get someone involved. Help us add another name. Help us add bigger effects or whatever it might be. So that's the ultimate goal, is just to keep making them bigger, better, keep a lot of the team intact and involved. I love working with the same people, and
Hmm.
uh, having fun with it, and I, just to be able to keep doing it too. That's probably my biggest aspiration. Back in the '90s, I used to work in post production out in Hollywood. After doing that, and we worked for all the big studios, the production house, and after doing that for a while, I just realized it's not where I wanted to live.
No.
So I live out in Orange County in Huntington Beach, where I can surf and live a quieter, slower paced life than out in LA. And with the digital world now, I can make movies, and with these cinema cameras that are out, it's amazing the quality that we can bring to it now.
Yeah, I noticed your profile picture is you surfing, and you enjoy doing that, huh?
Oh yeah, yeah. Been
Yeah,
doing it for
that
more than half of my life now.
I've never done it. I would probably something else I would mess up with. But but social distance is. Would you say that's your most successful film right now?
uh, let's probably impact event in terms of just where it's been and where it got
Hmm.
out to. Social distance right there though, because it just it's been a little slower rollout with it and taking a little different approach. But it's getting seen. It's on iTunes, Vudu, Google Play, and you can get DVDs and Blu-rays of it. So we have it out there. but also too, just that opportunity to think not being able to see it in theaters or promote it the same way. It doesn't have quite that same audience that Impact Event did. But I'm hoping that as the pandemic ends and people are ready to watch a movie about pandemic, it has a second rebound too, and really gets out there even more. It had a great run back in the fall, and looking to really kind of launch it again as people are ready to watch some pandemic, post-pandemic.
Yeah, I think that's where we want to leave the pandemic. It's just on the screen. How are things where you are right now?
We are still in the higher tiers of the way California has it spread out. Things are
Mhm.
starting to open back up. I think Disneyland's going to open up in April, so the world is starting to return. I get my vaccine on Tuesday, so things are starting to happen. But
You
it's
nervous about
it's
you nervous about the vaccine?
no, no, I'm
Yeah.
no, not
I'm
not
hearing
at all.
various things, that you're sore after you get it and whatnot, I haven't got it yet. I haven't been approached about it. I do work as a cleaner, but I do know some of my past guests have gotten it, and they're happy they've gotten it, but they say they've been sore afterwards.
Yeah, that comes with vaccines sometimes. My
Mhm.
my parents both had it recently, and they both had the 2-dose one. I'm getting the single dose. My mom had a reaction after her second shot, but not too severe. She wasn't
Mhm.
feeling too good for it. But I've already had COVID, so I don't
You
think the
had it.
vaccine could be. Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Okay,
So
okay. This is something different for me because
yeah.
I've never had it. Um, I was tested, but I didn't really have to. Got done. I went to work one night and I had a pain in my lower back, and I ended up throwing up in a trash can at work.
Oh wow.
I went up to the hospital after I was done my shift to see what was wrong, and it might have been. It was either a urine infection or kidney stone or something, I don't know what it was, but waiting in the waiting room, everything kind of went away because I was there from 4 a.m. till 11:30 in the morning, and I was like, yeah, I think the pain just kind of like, okay, enough is enough. But I remember when I was talking to the nurse, getting myself registered in, I got talking about my disappointment not being able to travel to Toronto and do Horrorama and whatnot, and we got talking about the pandemic and whatnot, and I asked about getting tested, and she told me what it was all about, and I just casually asked. I said, "Can I get it done?" I didn't have to, but I did it, and I came out negative. I was fine, but didn't bother me. But I ran it. I've got one guest who's claimed he had it, and but I never got it in a whole lot of detail. So explain that process. I heard Diamond Dallas Page, the wrestler, talk about it, but he wasn't on the show. So you tell me about that.
Yeah, it went through our house. My whole family had it, and the best we can guess is we got it maybe from a grocery store or a pizza delivery, because we hadn't been anywhere in weeks and had been following protocols.
Hmm.
And for me, it was real severe fatigue and body aches. The first day that it really hit me, I slept 20 of 24 hours. My wife said in the 27 years we've been together that that's the most sick she's ever seen me. And my skin was real sensitive. Like out of the shower, I couldn't towel off. I had to pat dry. Uh,
Oh.
I didn't have any of the congestion or breathing problems, and I just had the real super severe body aches. And the next 2 days, I couldn't sleep for more than 20 minutes at a time. Still had my taste and smell. My wife and daughter both lost a little bit of taste and smell, but not too severe. And it's back now. And then all of us were really down for about 3 days, then started to recover. And then for about 2 weeks, I was really tired. And after a month, I felt pretty much normal. Took me about a month to get my appetite back. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't a flu, it wasn't bronchitis, it was something definitely different, and not any kind of sickness I've ever felt or had before. But we were very lucky with the low level infection we had, and as severe as it was for a couple of days, it was nothing that sent anyone to the hospital or needed a doctor call. And none of us really had a fever, or if we did, it wasn't of significance, and none of us had a cough or congestion. So we were very fortunate and lucky in those ways.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, hopefully the vaccine gets around, and hopefully there's some people reluctant to get the vaccine. Um, I don't know. I don't get into all that political stuff, you know. I say if they get it back to where we can manage this and put it behind us, hopefully, and move on with our lives, and great. I'm lucky for Zoom. I've been able to do this show again because, like I said,
That's great.
I still am with CHSR on university campus here, but I haven't done an interview there since March 18th of last year,
Okay,
and
wow.
it closed on the 20th. I mean, the station manager and program director go in on a weekly basis to keep things top notch, you know, and they work very hard at that. But I guess they got my show on repeats there because I can't go in there, and so I'm been very fortunate to be able to do the Zoom so I can get back at this, because I'm going to tell you, despite the fact I remained employed during this whole thing, employment's one thing, but if you can't do the things you enjoy doing, it takes a toll on you. So this has been rewarding to be
Yeah,
able to do
that's
this.
great. That's good to hear. Yeah, and that's one of the reasons we ended up making social distance. Me and all the actors and everybody involved in it, wanted to just keep creating and keep doing something and figure out a way to do it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. Well, you know, you got anything else coming up in the future that you want to plug and promote? A website or any place where people can get hold of you or even get involved in your projects?
Yeah, absolutely. The one we're working on right now is The Electric Man, and you can find that at theelectricmanmovie.com, and tells you all about it and how to get involved with it.
Hmm.
And have quite a few movies on the docket. You can go to my company website, which is Koa Aloha Media, KOAALOHA media.com.
Hmm.
And you can see all the stuff that's planned for the future. Have 3 or 4 movies ready to go, and the goal is to shoot 4 of them in the next 2 years here, and
Hmm.
keep them coming. And we're always looking for people to get involved, from crowdfunders to actors to producers to whoever it may be, through things like Facebook and different social media, Instagram and Twitter. I've actually hired actors and gotten people involved, and met a lot of people who ended up working on projects. Met you, I think, through Facebook.
Hmm.
Uh, so always happy to hear from people.
Yeah, I don't know whether it was Noelle or Rob. I think it was Rob. I'm leaning more towards Rob Mahoney on this connection. But Noelle's been involved in so many projects that I'm involved with that the hairs can get crossed there. But I think it was
Yeah,
Rob Mahoney that connected me with this one. So
yeah, she's been a dynamo on social media with how many projects she's been involved with. She's in and working on a ton right now. Can't wait to start seeing some of these.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You got any charities that you want to plug on here that you're involved with?
Not at the moment.
Okay.
I always encourage people to. We have a lot of rescues. Get out there and help cats and dogs. Every animal we've had, just about. We have 4 cats right now, and our dog that we just lost in 2020 was a rescue. We even have
Hmm.
fish that are rescues. So I encourage people to get out there and do what they can, rescue those animals, and give them a home.
Yeah, my cat's a rescue. He'll jump up on my bed and he'll come along, he'll stare down on my face. And I'm like, Kitty, your sleep time and my sleep time are two different things. Yeah, you gotta love your pets, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, you know what, Brian? It was wonderful having you come on here today, and I'd be more than happy. Maybe next year, this time, I'll have you back on to see talk about the completion of Electric Man and any of your other projects that hopefully you'll be able to get in progression as things come in. I am very optimistic about 2021 because I just interviewed somebody who was at a horror film convention and it went very well. So I'm
Oh,
kind of
good.
like,
Good to hear.
yeah, I'm liking hearing that. So, and that was in the States, and not to brag, but I think we're doing a little better with the pandemic here in Canada. We got the jump on it here in New Brunswick. I remember when we first started getting cases and we were kind of waiting in the winds for it. So we got kind of the jump on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
But
thank you for having me. I would love to come back in a year and talk the Electric Man and future
mhm.
projects and past projects and hear about what you've been up to. And hopefully you're back in the studio by then.
Yeah, I don't know whether I'll do interviews from the studio anymore or not. I don't have to schedule through the studio here, which is nice.
Yeah.
But it will be nice to get in studio to do my show and just take the flash drive in and stick it in and play these. That'll be great.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be great. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, it was wonderful having you on today. And for anybody watching this or listening to this, check out Social Distance with Vernon Wells and a variety of talents in it. And yeah, something that brought us through the pandemic. And we hope to see more of you in the future.
And in that next interview, I want to get the story behind AKA Python Hyena.
Oh, I can give you that story right now. I love African wildlife, particularly I love snakes. And I just thought that Python would be an interesting little uh, key name for me. I kind of got the idea a little bit from American Graffiti because I remember when the scene where Richard Dreyfuss meets Wolfman Jack. He's heard You hear Wolfman Jack all through the movie on the radio. But there comes a point where he's at the radio station because he wants a song to get out. He meets Wolfman Jack, but he don't know it's Wolfman Jack. He just sees this guy in the studio with a busted refrigerator having to eat all these popsicles because they're melting. And the guy tells him, if the Wolfman is in, he'll get it out to get the song out, blah blah blah. And as he is leaving, he hears the Wolfman on the radio. He just does this double take and sees him on the air. It's the same guy. Of course, we know it's Wolfman Jack. But what I liked about it is the fact that Wolfman was being himself when he was talking to Richard Dreyfuss, and he's being the Wolfman when he was on the radio. And I kind of like that dynamic. So I was the Python Hyena. Originally, it was just Python, and some people just go by Python, which is great. The hyena part is like the spotted hyena a lot too. Another African animal that's just got a lot of personality. Um, and I also find that snakes and hyenas are also very misunderstood animals because snakes uh, eat more rodents than birds of prey and cats. They're amazing hunters. And of course, we all know rodents can affect crops and various other things. Snakes come in handy there. Um, and the spotted hyena, what's amazing is that they eat the kind of stuff that other animals aren't eating. I heard that they got stomachs like cast iron. They can eat the bone, they get the bone marrow and all that stuff. And I heard that they'd be right at home in a sewer because they'll eat the stuff now nobody else will touch. So they clean up the environment, so to speak. So they're two animals that are very misunderstood. So, and a lot of times I'm very misunderstood. So,
that was my next question.
yeah, I often am misunderstood, uh, but yeah, that's where it kind of comes from. A lot of people just call me Python, which is great, but I throw the hyena in there every so often. So yeah, that's where it comes from. But if I watch animal videos, oftentimes in the not it's African wildlife. I just find the videos just the safari videos are just great. I've never been there, my likelihood of ever being there are slim to none, but never know. I didn't think I'd be to Toronto when I was, so who knows? But yeah, it's a pretty amazing thing. Watch those videos, and yeah, that's where it kind of comes from.
That's
So
great. I was curious about that. Thank you for sharing.
yeah, that's kind of my thing. Plus, I used to watch wrestling a lot, and I always loved it when Jake the Snake would put the snake on his opponents. He put the python on his opponents, and I used to get a kick out of that. So I don't watch wrestling so much anymore because it's gotten stupid. But fake crowd noises. I remember back in the day, they knew what real heat was. Now that they have so little faith in their product, they have to try to dictate how we feel. Sorry, it doesn't work. Doesn't work. But yeah. But yeah, I was happy to have you on here today to talk about social distance, and I look forward to next year. We'll talk about the Electric Man and other projects. I'll keep you posted. I can't make any promises, but if I can make a contribution to Electric Man, then very well do. I'll do so.
Always appreciate it, and I appreciate being on the show too. Thank you so much, Greg.
Oh, no problem. I appreciate having you. You have yourself a wonderful day, and keep creating.
Yeah, that's what I'm off to do now as soon as we get off here.
And of course, keep your social distance until this pandemic goes away.
Yep, and mask on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You take care.
You too.
Bye bye.
Thanks, Greg. Bye.
Yep. Bye.